At the very end of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel trailer, we see Hyrule Castle shaking up the entire expanse that is Hyrule, and it seems to be rising from the ground. If this is actually the case, where is it going? Well, I have a couple theories. Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart, and for this video we're going to be trying to theorize what exactly is going on with Hyrule Castle at the end of the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. Now I think it's rising from the ground, causing a lot of seismic activity, which could lead to vast changes with the entire expanse that is Hyrule, which of course would make a lot of sense to change around how the landscape is going to be for when we play it through a second time. But I also think this rise is being caused by Ganondorf, who's being resurrected somewhere underground in Hyrule. Now for the most part, people agree that that's Ganondorf in the trailer. It's being resurrected, but if you do disagree or just want more information on it, I have a couple of videos about that already, so I'll put that in the eye and at the end screens at the end of the video. But nevertheless, that's likely Ganondorf being resurrected in the trailer, and as he's being resurrected, he also seems to somehow be playing a role in the rise of Hyrule Castle. Well, what I'm thinking here is that Hyrule Castle is going to become Ganon's castle. Ganon's castle from Ocarina of Time. In Ocarina of Time, the entire castle took place of Hyrule Castle, where it was 7 years in the past, and it was resting on this giant landmass that was hovering above a giant lava pit where Hyrule Castle used to be. So what if Ganon's castle becomes Hyrule Castle? What if that giant castle at the center of Hyrule is rising from the ground and Ganondorf is going to take the throne for that forgotten castle or abandoned castle in Breath of the Wild, and that's still going to be the endpoint for the game because it's going to become his castle. Now, I don't think the castle is going to rise all the way up into the stars, but I do think at the very least we're going to see Hyrule Castle hovering in a sort of way that will remind us of Ganon's castle from Ocarina of Time. I definitely think that's going to be some sort of intentional nod, but I think there might be a little bit more to it than just that. So, at the end of the trailer, did you guys notice from what perspective we were seeing the castle rise from? It was actually from the perspective of the Great Plateau. Now, the Great Plateau is the starting point for the game, so maybe they just wanted the camera to be from there because it's significant just for that alone. But what if they also wanted to suggest that the Great Plateau plays some sort of vital role in this relationship of the castle rising from the ground and Ganondorf resurrecting? With the Champion's Ballad, we did have to go into a dungeon deep underground in the Great Plateau and then fight this monk who is kind of similar to Ganondorf in my opinion. Maybe there's some sort of connection there, but on top of that, the ruins with the Temple of Time seem to resemble Castletown from Ocarina of Time. A lot of people have noted that the layout seems to look like Castletown. We even have the fountain, and of course there's a Temple of Time as well, but even there's the lead up to Hyrule Castle. The only thing that's really missing here is Hyrule Castle. And when we go up the pathway that looked like the lead up to Hyrule Castle, all we see is this giant icy area, a valley of icy mountains, and a river running through. It's almost kind of like a giant hole. Almost. But that's the thing. Hyrule Castle is rising up from the ground. What if Hyrule Castle, if it's going to be landing anywhere else, if it's not going to stay suspended in the air the entire game, what if it goes back to the Great Plateau, because that was the original birthplace of Hyrule, where Castletown used to be, and that's where the original Hyrule Castle was, as well as Ganon's castle, I might add. This moving castle might actually explain why the layout of Breath of the Wild doesn't exactly match up with different games, because the original Hyrule Castle actually left the Great Plateau and moved elsewhere, and perhaps it will be returning once Ganondorf is resurrected. Now that may seem like a crazy idea, this whole premise that an entire landmass could rise to the air and go elsewhere, but we've seen this somewhere else before in the Zelda series, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So in Skyward Sword there's a whole bunch of landmasses in the air, Skyloft, but at the end of the game, the giant goddess statue comes down from the ground and comes back into the sealed grounds. And it completes it, and supposedly this is the birthplace of Hyrule. But the old man in Breath of the Wild says the Great Plateau is the birthplace of Hyrule, supposedly. What if the Great Plateau is actually somehow related to the goddess statue in the sealed grounds from Skyward Sword? It may be the case, but it also might not be the case, because we also have the Forgotten Temple in Breath of the Wild, and that seems to resemble the goddess statue in the sealed grounds as well. But either way, there's still a history of giant land masses rising from the ground in Hyrule and going elsewhere. So I think there's some strong connection between Hyrule Castle and the Great Plateau here. I think definitely we're going to be seeing Hyrule Castle rise up from the ground, and it's going to resemble, not only resemble, it's going to basically be just a redesigned version of Ganon's castle from Ocarina of Time, where we see it suspended in the air with maybe even lava under it. And I think there's a possibility it could go to the Great Plateau and make it fit and make it match exactly to the way everything looked like from Ocarina of Time. The only thing that's missing with those ruins is a castle in that Ice Valley area. And maybe we'll even see even more of an explanation to the history of the Great Plateau. Maybe the Great Plateau is truly the birthplace of Hyrule, where the goddess statue came down into the sealed grounds at the end of Skyward Sword. Maybe. So that's my personal speculation on what I think is going on here with Hyrule Castle rising from the ground and changing the entire landmass of Hyrule and moving elsewhere. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's going to space, somewhere else, another part of the entire universe of Hyrule, or do you think I'm right? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching. I'll see you all really soon.